Hello, everyone. I'm Kimberly Pope from the Pope Institute, and welcome to another Polish and Poise Sweet Chat, where we are talking about business brands, particularly building your brand. I am with Cara-Lynn Birts of Cara-Lynn Birts Photography and Duane Nash of Nash Media. And so we're going to pick up where we left off. This is actually part two of a conversation on business brands. And so let's pick up. We were talking about kind of what investment, if you had to pick between photography and design, what investment would be the one to make. And we couldn't really sort of come to an agreement.
It's a handshake.
It's a handshake. That's what we decided to just, hey, it's a handshake where two work together. You better find a way to make it work.
Well, you don't have to find a way. It's going to work.
It will work.
Yeah. If
It
they're
will
both
work
good, they'll both work.
Right.
If you said if they're both good,
Yes.
which means consult a professional with some expertise. Okay, not just someone who knows how to take photos, not someone who knows how to throw a design together. Professionals with training, years of experience, expertise. Okay, with that, so how can photography or design be used to attract a target demographic? We talked about it a little bit earlier, but let's go ahead and really delve into it a little bit more. When a business is, and it's not just when you get started, it's anytime you are, as you mentioned earlier, making content. And this content can be whether it's social media content, whether it's marketing content in general, building your website. How can, you can use photography or design to really tune into a particular demographic that a business may be trying to reach?
I think you have to know who you're trying to reach and be focused on that. So, for example, I know someone who's just kind of really launched their business like last year, but the content that this person creates is focused on that person's services and also the products that person uses in their services. And then that person, when they create these images to showcase their services, and they create these images to showcase their products, the graphics that go along with those are also complementary of the colors in the product and the theme or color theme that this person has chosen for their social media. And it flows very well. So he knows his target demographic, he knows what he's selling, and he knows the services that he's offering. So he's taken all of that and combined it with a certain color scheme and graphic design to go with that, so that everything is consistent. And he's attracting clientele based on that.
Yeah. To piggyback off of that statement, it's all about understanding of what is that, who you are and what you do as your company, understanding your target audience, understanding the type of imagery and design that is used within that industry, and also having an understanding of how much do you want to stand out from the rest of your competition, because you can most definitely do exactly everything that everyone else within that industry is doing, and when they instantaneously see you, they know that, hey, this is what you do. But you can also deviate from that slightly, put a little bit of what your flavor is, or who you are, your personality, or whatever your brand is into that imagery, and have that reflected within your marketing as well, so that people have understanding that I'm in this industry, but this is my take on this aspect of the industry.
I think it's two things, that you both have mentioned. One, being mindful of your target demographic to begin with, and two, understanding your industry. I think a lot of times when people approach things when it comes to their branding, they're thinking more about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
What do I like? How do I want to put it together? But if you're providing a service, you have to think about being of service, connecting, establishing a relationship with your target audience. So in order to do that, you have to really think about things with them in mind. And I've seen the mistakes where I remember working with a client once, and the comment was, well, I don't want to wear X, Y, and Z. Even though that's what is typical for their industry, is I want to wear something different. Okay, let's talk about that.
Okay.
audience you're trying to reach? Well, I want more of an executive audience. Well,
is that going to attract an executive audience?
exactly. And that's the thing of understand who you're trying to attract. Understand what their experiences are, what they deal with. Understand what they are used to, what are their expectations.
Mm-hmm.
You can't come at everything with just, well, I want to do this.
True.
Because it may backfire. So I think that's key in one, understanding your industry as well as your audience. And I think a lot of times people don't take the time to do that enough because they're thinking about it from, a place of what do I like, what do I want to do. I mean, we talked about this earlier when you mentioned someone likes colors, so he's going to roll with those colors. No matter what those colors may mean, they just roll with it because that's what they like.
Yeah.
Same thing with pictures. It's just people seem to kind of come at things from thinking about what they're like and reflecting on themselves and not really reflecting on who they're trying to serve. And again, the shelf life of that when you make these decisions. So for me, I've seen and I experience it. I think about it all the time when I'm working with the both of you of just, okay, being mindful. Like when we talked earlier about the brand refresh. Okay, I'm doing a soft pivot. I'm changing up my services. My clientele is going to be changing. So I'm tuning into who I'm serving and how do I connect with them now in my photography, in my design work. And because I also need to make sure I show up behind all that photography and design work as well. I need to speak the language. I need to communicate in a way that audience is used to. And I think, again, sometimes whether you're a new business entrepreneur or sometimes people who they've been in business for a while, but they still don't think about it. And they could have had a lot more growth if they really thought about becoming a student of your industry, as well as always thinking about your target audience. So those are two things that I think I'm going to flip stop as a takeaway for today. Okay, so what are some trends you've noticed in your industry with respect to business branding, be it photography or design?
Wow. Trends?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, it varies, right? Because, but the main things, of course, are the various types of fonts that are being used, different color schemes that are being used. Because, of course, you start thinking about traditional color schemes and how they're used, but sometimes colors are trendy now. And, they come up with a list of the trendiest color of this particular year. And yes, so just having a understanding and a wherewithal of what those potentially could be or not. But I just, like I said before, or really, because a lot of times when people think about branding, they just think about the visual aspect. That's not necessarily what branding is. I think I said it before. Mm-hmm. Branding is more so the message that you're trying to relay to everyone else of what it is that your company does. And yes, color in your imagery is a reflection of that. But you can also incorporate, you are incorporating that message through the imagery that you use, but is that message coming from you, from who you are, or is it more so your company? And it could actually be one and the same, or it actually can be different. So that's something that you have to think about. I might like these colors. I might like these imagery, or I might like this type of imagery, but that's not what my company itself is trying to relay, or that's not what I'm trying to relay to my to clients through my company.
Any trends you've noticed in photography?
Trends. I've noticed that for branding, you need to have imagery of where you're doing business or somewhere similar to where you're doing business of the service that you provide. And then you also need to have a clean image to just present that's not in the business environment. So when I say a clean aesthetic, I've noticed that a lot of people are using these white spaces and they'll have whatever it is that they do for business kind of in those white spaces. I don't really have an answer other than that.
Okay. I mean, I guess nowadays, we were talking during the break about just how a lot has changed over the years. and so you kind of mentioned it where, back in the day before social media, I guess there were a lot of things that you really didn't need, I guess, back then. It was kind of in a way, you just had the few key things, and you had the few key areas where you were putting, whether it was your pictures or any design work. But nowadays, within the different types of platforms, it seems to be so much in this idea of trying to get the person's attention. You're trying to sort of one up the next person with how can, are you not entertained? It's almost
because the narrative is more fast paced now.
Yeah.
Yes.
People and content are more easily accessible.
Mm-hmm.
So what you were doing today that popped is not going to pop tomorrow because someone else has already done something that's trumped what you did or overshadowed. I like that word better.
Yeah, overshadowed.
That's overshadowed what you did the day before. So you're constantly producing and creating content, right? So you have to control the narrative, but you also have to control the narrative at a faster pace.
Yeah, because that was something I was just about to say. It's not necessarily that the type of stuff that you put out has to change. It's the same type of stuff, technically. It's the various types of media which there are more ways of getting your information out now. Whereas before, in the before times, where it was just print media, newspapers, magazines, flyers, whatever. It was limited to just that. Now you have so many different ways, especially with social media, that you can relay your messaging, that it can get lost in amongst the vast other information that's out there, and just trying to make sure that your stuff still stands out. It's the same. It's the same theory, the same thought process. It's just now that you're competing with a lot of other people in a vaster space.
I'll tell you what stands out to me.
What's that?
As a consumer, when I'm scrolling through social media and I'm seeing different things, what stands out to me is great photography. I'm just saying. I feel like because everyone is plastering stuff, and like you said, having to keep up with, you got to do something different. You got to be quicker out there. You've got to put more out there. The frequency of it. I've seen things where because of that, and we were talking earlier about I do photo shoots with you now once a quarter, and I think a lot of people kind of just how do I say this in a nice way? They just tend to kind of keep it very casual. So it's whatever their cell phone can produce for them at any given time. And I think that's fine for certain things. But what I've noticed, what attracts my eye as a consumer is you can tell when something's professional and when it's not.
Yeah.
Okay? Especially if you've been dealing with professionals over a certain amount of time, you as a consumer of that, you build up some awareness, some your eye gets trained a little bit. And I can tell when shots are done professionally versus when they're not. And I have an iPhone. I don't know how good an iPhone is, but I can still tell when something is not shot with the good old, expensive photography equipment. So, but I found that it attracts the eye. Because I remember, I don't know if I mentioned this during one of our last conversations where we did a shoot together and you used 2 different cameras.
And you could tell the difference.
And I couldn't tell then. Because she wanted to redo this thing. This is what you talk about professional. She's like, no, we will not use those shots. We are going to redo this thing completely. I don't feel like
it's time consuming, but I guess the relationship that we have is I know how I want you to feel, and I know how I want to feel about what you feel when we're finished. A lot of people might be divorced from that.
Yeah.
But I think it was one of the first ones we did, and you were like, you're going to send pictures? I don't really feel good about them. You're like, well, I need to see them. I know. I know, but it's us. And I don't feel good about them. So we're going to go one more time. We're going to do this a certain way based upon what we've discussed on this mood board and everything. She's like, okay. And I felt better about giving her a product the second time.
Mm-hmm.
I was going through this transition, trying to change my brands of equipment. And the way that I used the new equipment wasn't working with the way I used the old equipment. And the camera sensors were different. And I just didn't prepare ahead of time. And so I said, you know, my thing is about things like that is I want to feel good about the content that I produce for her, but I also want her to be well represented with the content that she's going to put out.
Mm-hmm.
And if I give her something that I don't think she's going to feel well represented about the relationship that we have in terms of her branding, I want to do it so that I feel that when she presents this, that she feels great about what she is putting out.
Mm-hmm.
And that I've done my best to make her present herself in the best light with my work. So we were going through this transition phase because I was trying to switch brands, and I said, look, I can show you the difference. You might not see it, and a lot of people will be like, well, you know, you charged her, you did the job, go in and move on. Most people will probably handle it like that, but I can't. I didn't feel good having my name attached to this transition that I was going through while she was trying to present herself, because I want her to be presented in the best light, because if she's presented in the best light, who's that reflect on? Me and you, because we're working with her, right? So,
yeah,
I know I just went down a rabbit hole.
No, but it's good because you're talking about things that people don't know behind the scenes, and that, you know, during that time when you were going through that transition between brands of equipment, I couldn't tell. Because again, I'm still learning. I'm still training my eye. I'm not the professional photographer. She is.
I saw it.
But like I said, the more I work with her, my eye picks up and I learn things. And so, since then,
and it was a great last session, because the last session we did here, and we were able to go through. Okay, so let's try it this way, and I think it looks better from these angles or with this particular light, or somebody found some feet somewhere in some of them, but it was a better representation of the direction that you're going in, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So for my clients, I always want to feel good about the work that I produce, but I also want to make sure when I give them the work that it presents them in the best light, so that when they present themselves to others, that the reflection of them is a reflection of me.
Yeah, most definitely.
So.
And it was, you know, again, at that time when we did that shoot, I couldn't tell. But a year later, I was doing some other stuff, and I was going through all my photos trying to find what haven't I used in a while, that sort of thing. And let me go to this file from that shoot.
See, normally I wouldn't have sent them to the client.
Right.
But I know you, so I sent them to you.
And so I picked one, and then it caught my eye. I was like,
that's what she's talking about.
Oh, this really is different. And so I went to a different photo from a different camera you used, and I put them like side by side, and I said, I could tell the difference. Oh my God.
Right. Yeah.
But you know, if you're just looking at it with the untrained eye, you're like,
and so great clients would not have ever seen those photos, right? But I gave them to you, so you could see. Oh, I see what she's talking about.
Yeah. I saw it after a while. I was like, okay, it's a good thing. Because I mean, again, the average person probably wouldn't have even still noticed anything.
Right.
But at least for me as a consumer, because my eye is learning more and I'm picking up on more things, what attracts me are the high quality professional photos, whether it's the lighting, whether it's the color that's used. I mean, we talked a little bit about that earlier in part one conversation. Even when it comes to movies, of how the choice of lighting and what type of lighting. And so to me, while you might have great pictures from your regular phone that you use for all those different things, it doesn't pop. There's so much that you don't understand that you are not giving your audience when you are just selling yourself short and kind of keeping it to, okay, let me just snap this real quick. And you know, my pet peeve is a daggone selfie. Daggone selfie. I mean, even if you want to do a selfie, there are so many Bluetooth remotes on the market so it doesn't look like a selfie. I'm just, but that's a trend where people are getting more casual, I feel.
Yeah.
That what I've seen is, it's just, sure, let's take this shot real quick. And then that becomes, I'm like, no, don't let that be your main photo. What is you doing?
Don't be up in the casket with that picture you took in the
Right. Come on, son. What are you doing? Right? But it's just either that photo in the hallway that you took when you were at a hotel at a conference, and that becomes the photo. Because, I look good there. But you're wearing an evening gown. Like, what is that supposed to be about? So, it's just really think about how you put yourself out there. So for me, I feel like as a consumer, the trends I've seen are that people are becoming more casual in their photos with their approach to photography.
Yeah. It's a generation of influencers, though.
Yeah.
That's why that's
Jane, pick that up.
Yeah, but even with the influencers, it's the fun part about that is
influencing major brands that have
yes,
professional. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that's the thing though, because like some of these influencers actually have photographers that do that. But the thing is, people are like, I can do that, and they do it themselves, and it doesn't have the same look.
The same.
Right.
Yeah.
And they assume that it's going to be the same look, but it's not really, especially to the untrained eye. It goes back to the whole thing of, okay, well, first and foremost, design transcends any type of media that you have put it out. Be it, like I said before, in the old times of newspapers and flyers and stuff, the same good design that works there is going to work in social media, Instagram, Twitter.
Design is still design.
Design is still design.
Yeah.
The theory is still the same theory. The theory hasn't changed.
Right.
All of that is still the same, and it's going to work regardless of what platform it is. The trends, though, right? I think that plays more of a part when you're looking to rebrand yourself. And what is it that's working now that I can take to add into what I'm doing creatively, or what I'm doing to represent myself, to update what it is that I'm currently doing. Now, okay, in terms of sans serif fonts, I'm about to be a font nerd for a moment.
Tell them the difference between a serif font and a sans serif font.
Okay,
one has feet, one doesn't have
yes,
feet.
one has feet or tails or endings, and the other one doesn't. Case in point, serif fonts are like Times New Roman,
Yes, they have
let it go.
Georgia,
and Georgia too.
what else?
So let me on your mind.
Gaudi, things with ligatures.
Yes.
Fonts with ligatures are considered serif fonts. Sans serif fonts like Arial, Helvetica, so fonts like those, there are various versions of serif and sans serif fonts. And they're fonts, of course, that become trendy during particular years. And having the understanding of, okay, this is the updated version of the sans serif font. And I've been using sans serif fonts before, let me go ahead and use Roboto instead of Arial this time, because I know that this is a different version of a sans serif font. Ooh, D Nash, the design nerd here.
He's shaking.
Then let me go ahead and use this instead of this, because I know that we've seen this before. This is a standard in terms of fonts, but this is an updated, cleaner version. Let me go ahead and move this way and see if this updates my look or not. Because, of course, those fonts that I named originally are dated fonts in a sense. Not to say that they're bad, they're just dated. And the things that we've seen before, and in a sense, our eyes are used to, and we're not necessarily gravitated to that. But we see something that's a little bit fresher, a little bit different, we'll gravitate to that a little bit more.
Yeah, because I've even seen where there are updated, I'm glad you mentioned that, there are updated serif fonts.
Yeah.
There are.
And,
Most definitely.
there are some that, look okay and don't kind of make you cringe as much as when I see a Times New Roman or something.
Leave Times alone.
No, I'm saying it has its place.
Through college.
Times New Roman, it has its place. All fonts have their place, even papyrus.
Yeah.
Oh, God. But it does.
Yes.
Because, again, depending professionals can sound like nerds because we can dig down into our craft.
Well, my thing is this: if there's nothing, well, a nerd is a person, in my eyes. A nerd is a person who is extremely dedicated and it's really likes what it is that they do within that particular field, and they're extremely knowledgeable about it. And if you're not a nerd within something, then you're doing something wrong in your life, in my eyes. There's something that it is that excites you, that you're extremely knowledgeable about, and you are willing to talk to other people about it. Or maybe not, but at least be extremely knowledgeable about it. And then you could be that nerd within that thing. And I even find it funny when people who aren't nerds, or who don't claim to be nerds, or don't think that they're nerds, they're a nerd outside.
Okay, that's true.
It's
Yeah.
true. It's true.
You know,
Right now, you're a nerd on fonts.
I am, right? So that's funny. The men stereotypically are nerds about sports, but they'll laugh at a person that reads comic books or watches anime films. And I find that to be a great situation there. Like, oh, dude, the same way you're spilling off these stats, it's the same way this dude can tell you about the story structure of a particular comic. It's the same thing.
Nerd's a nerd.
The nerd is a nerd, you know.
Yes.
It's just what is more accepting.
And what's not accepting in branding anything that's dated.
Anything that's dated,
Unless you're trying
unless
to
that's your
go
look.
for, right, you know, like if you're doing, let's say, a film that's more, I don't know, going back to like the Cleopatra days, then maybe papyrus might be the font you want to use.
If you're trying to invoke something that has, if your brand is invoking a particular period or a particular feeling, then sure, use those fonts. Don't be afraid to use those fonts.
Because I use Plaza font.
See,
And Plaza, you might think of like the Great Gatsby, the 1920s, things like that, but those are very luxurious times. Very, you know, finer times. You know, so those are things that I wanted part of my aesthetic when I think of luxury and royalty and yes, of course, Plaza font.
Yes.
Shall we sip champagne after this conversation?
Hey, I sip champagne when I'm thirsty all the time. What are you talking about?
Okay, big A.
I'm just saying. You better ask my daughter. You better ask somebody. Okay, moving right along. What are you
right? I like the life I live.
I went from negative to positive.
It's all.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Anyway.
Biggie nerds.
Pet peeves, which we kind of already gone there. My pet peeve when it comes to your specific industries are selfies and outdated fonts. Do you all have any pet peeves when it comes to your respective industries?
Ooh, God.
The deep side on both sides.
Yeah, right.
It's complicated. I'm sticking with the time. I'm sticking for you canceling because you don't feel sure about yourself. I think, to me, okay, so I put on a couple pounds in the past couple weeks. I've been vacationing. You are who you look like at that moment in time, right? If you book me for a service and you say, well, I need to reschedule because I want to lose 20 pounds. Let's do this now. When you lose the 20 pounds, if you lose the 20 pounds, let's come back and revisit it. You're not going to change overnight because your self-esteem is not agreeing with what you see in the mirror. So that's a pet peeve of mine. I want to come back to you when I lose the weight, but I want to capture you with who you are now. That just really irritates me. What also irritates me is if I tell you what the package is and you devalue it by saying, well, what else can I get for that price? You're going to pay someone $100 at the salon to dye your hair. And you're not going to say, what else can I get for that $100? You think if you just put this 40 developer on here for 10 minutes, is it going to bleach it the white color that I want? No, you're not going to bargain with them because they've told you what they can do for the rate that they can do, right? So if I tell you what I can do for the rate that I can do it for you, let's do that. We might can talk about something after you receive your photos on the back end of what other products might be available that might be more affordable for you after you've gotten this package, but this is the base package. Those are two of my major pet peeves. And then the third pet peeve is I put on this dress and now now I don't feel good about myself. Did you try to dress on before you came? Did you have anyone work with you to look at you to see how you looked when you put the dress on before you came? Because Photoshop is not going to fix everything on you. And I don't think it's fair to Photoshop you to have a waistline when you didn't come in with a waistline.
Okay, somebody.
Buy the clothes that look good on you. Try them before you come, right? So because you shouldn't be expecting me to do magic with
So
what
fuck
you
You sure did.
right with what you look like. Those are the three biggest pet peeves. And then the fourth one. Fourth one is really simple. Always be presentable, right? If your eyebrows aren't done, yeah, we can get the lady to fix them in post, but why should we have her pluck your eyebrows in post when you should have come groomed? And you don't have to wear no whole face of makeup, but you just want to make sure your skin tone is evened out and that you're presentable. You shouldn't expect the photographer to change what you look like because you want to present an image of someone that is not actually who you are. Right? Just come ready to shoot. Right now I got a big waistline. I might not have a big waistline next month, but today if you take this picture, you're going to get all of this.
But you know, I mean, that's key though, because you take these shots and then let's say for social media sense, on social media the next day. You are showing up and people are getting to know who you are and get used to seeing you. You can't be just completely night and day. I mean, even when I come to do shoots with you, yes, I'll have on a full face of makeup in it.
But I know you,
right.
If I saw you from those pictures on IG in the streets, or if I saw you from these pictures on Facebook in the streets, I know that it's Kimberly from the Pope Institute.
Yeah.
If you see me, I might have a little makeup on my face, but you know it's me because nothing's been altered about my features or my appearance. I'm not asking you to snatch me and give me a BBL and sit these up tight. That's not what I look like, right?
Right.
So I'm not presenting a real, and you shouldn't expect your photographer, unless you're going for that, to give an unrealistic image of who you are. And then some people may not be comfortable with who you are at the moment, but that's who you are as who you are. We have done a transition from fetal to walking, and we're progressing to later stages in life. We're not going to always look like we were 21 and 22. Things in life happen in between time. Let's capture who you are at this moment in time. And if it's different next year, call me. We'll put something together for you next year to show who you are next year, right? So those are my pet peeves.
Okay. I have another pet peeve before you go into your pet peeve.
Okay.
I thought about it when she's talking. In addition, so I have another design pet peeve.
Okay.
Thinking about like graphics and logos. People who have logos that they use that don't have transparent backgrounds. I hate looking at square white boxes that just grinds my gears.
They do.
Yes, they do, ma'am. Yes, they do.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, are you a business? What you using a whole square?
So did they take
A white
the
square?
$50 million? Or did they go to dinner with Jay-Z? Oh, sorry, carry on.
I'm just saying. So that's a pet peeve of mine of not really having, you know, you really didn't.
I just didn't know people still did that.
Yes.
They still do it. Let's see. I'm listening to you guys talk. I'm having flashbacks, right? Because I've touched on some aspect of everything that you guys have talked about. I've taken wrinkles out of people's faces. I've whitened teeth.
Which I can rock with all of those things unless it alters what you look
Like dramatic.
One of them did when I took the wrinkles out of her face.
Casket fresh.
Word.
Was she casket fresh by the time?
Well, he, and I'm not gonna say who he is.
Well, don't say it.
No. Yeah. Ooh.
Okay, well let's move on. So we don't embarrass he.
Well, no, I was thinking about someone else.
Oh, it's a lot.
I've been doing this for over 20
See,
years.
I've asked you to edit pictures for me one time, and the response I got just let me know that was not your ministry. Because you were like, you know how much time I gotta spend on this? And what do they really need it for? You know it's an investment. And I was like, you know what? It's great.
I mean, the type of editing that it was probably going to be, yeah.
And it was one of those, because this was before I would just really, it was time in my life. You try to be nice,
Yeah.
I can be nice now, but I would rather either not say or just it's either black or white. You're gonna get it or you're not gonna get it.
Yeah.
Like this is who we are today, this Sunday of this year. This is what we are. This is what we are.
I mean, yeah, because the thing it can be done. It's just having an understanding of how long it takes. A lot of times people just think that you just press a button within Photoshop and boom,
And everything's
it's
great.
done, right? Now, yes, there are filters for certain things.
But they don't work like
But they don't work like that. No, it doesn't work like that. But yeah, pet peeves. Like I said before, you guys touched on a bunch of things that bother me. But what's bothering me today, right?
Today.
Man, I just saw a post not too long ago. I had to screenshot and save it on my phone because I'm like, you know what? Sometimes this needs to be shared at this moment. Yeah, the initials LLC does not have to be in your logo design. Does not have to be done.
Glad you brought that up.
You know, all that stuff. Yeah, just have the name of your company. You don't need to have the LLC at the end of it within your logo. I've actually had that request several times before. I've tried to shy people away from it. They didn't want to listen. I gave you what you asked for. It is what it is, but it doesn't have to be there.
Customer's always right.
Yeah, the customer's always right, right?
It's the customer. Didn't we just have this conversation?
We really did just have this. Yeah, we really did, but it's fine. Again, other things that I don't like. Gradients within logos. That's another pet peeve of mine. If you don't understand what a gradient is, it's basically a fade, a color fade within the logo.
Ombre.
Yes, right? You know, I've seen logos with a bunch of colors in it. I see that. I'm fine. I'm even fine with that, right? If it makes sense. But when you're doing a gradient, there are going to be instances in which you're not going to be capable of printing that gradient.
You can't reproduce it very
easily. Gradients do not reproduce well, and they don't reproduce small. That's one of the things I talked about in one of the earlier videos. The sign of a great logo is if it looks good when it's very small. And that gradient doesn't show, it's not going to show well when it's reproduced small.
Put a pin right there because I want to just kind of give an example of something that we dealt with before. And I think we talked about it maybe in an earlier video where even when it comes to just a single color, sometimes that is hard where depending on what system it's on, what was used to capture it, unless you know the actual hex code or something to reproduce that. And even times when you use the same hex code, it still might show up on your screen one way, show up on a Mac different than the way it shows up on a PC.
It's all about how it's calibrated. Yes.
Right. And so imagine that. If that's just with one color, imagine how it is with multiple colors. I mean, you know, I can understand how that would be.
Exactly, right? So, and that's one of the things you have to understand too. It's what your intent is and how people are going to see it. You know, I'm more of a stickler with color and exact color as it pertains to how things are printed. Because on screen, that's a monitor to monitor differential. Because how my screen is calibrated is going to be different from what yours is. So I can know what my color intent is going to be. My hope is that it relays that way when it goes to another monitor. But you need to focus more on that and be extremely exact with that when you're doing your printing. Another pet peeve of mine, especially since I'm starting to do a lot more of these now, is having an understanding of the format in which you're relaying these images in, especially as it pertains to social media. Please know from the beginning where you're going to use these images because, of course, the size formats from program to program differs. And you please let the designer know, and the photographer actually, please let them know in the beginning what you're going to use these images for. As a matter of fact, think this through before you can get it done. I need you to have a full understanding because I don't want it to be a last minute situation where it's like, oh, this actually looks nice.
Who's that, Nash? Yeah. This is real personal. It got real personal.
It does,
Feeling
right?
that thing, huh?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
Yes, right. But
Earns your grits, huh?
man, sometimes even throw it in my face.
Oh no.
But, yeah. I'm like,
Oh, wow.
where I understand now that unfortunately, when I design something, yes, I look at each individual design as my child, and sometimes that's actually like some child's better than other children that are like the other. But once it's out of my hands, it's now an orphan. Whatever you choose to do with said orphan, unfortunately, I'm hoping that you treat it well. God, please treat it well. But sometimes I see said orphan out in the street. He dressed poorly. He got on some bobos. I'm like, yo, what you do with my son? Why does he look like that? Why is that image stretched out like that? That's not the format in which that was designed for. I could have purposely designed it for said format. I'm sorry, the Bobo did take it to another place. I'm sorry. Why your son look like that? Yo, I don't know. But yes, you stretched out the image. It looks grainy now. It doesn't fit that format. The information is cut off. Graphics are cut off. What have you done to this? I could have set this up so that it looks nice when it's in your hands and when you do it. Because I've seen people take something that I've used for Instagram, use it as a Facebook cover, and a lot of that information is cut off completely. They just wanted something to put back there. That's not how it works. I can properly design that for just make sure you have that understanding of everything that you're going to use that.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm a why he takes a moment to breathe.
Yeah, because you know what, I didn't even think about that earlier today.
Once
Just
you
popped in my head.
let the babies go, you can't be wondering about how they dress in the street.
But I'm gonna say as a consumer, because I'm just gonna say.
No, because you know what? Sometimes I'm like, didn't you do that? Or ain't that your son?
No, actually, I did an original work. It's been long since I delivered it.
And I mean, we're talking with people who have been in magazines and have been on billboards and on the sides of buildings. I'm just
What
saying.
did you do on the side? I'm just joking.
But we all know what we did.
For billboards, magazines,
What were you doing
newspapers,
on the side?
TV. I mean, I try not to be that guy, but
You are that guy, and you are that woman.
Oh, well, thanks.
Okay, so put it out. I'm gonna put it out there for you.
yeah.
A little bit of
Magazines, billboards.
But I'll take it.
We're not talking about people who, I know how to work Photoshop on the side.
Oh, that's another pet peeve. On the side. Are you macaroni and cheese? Are you what on the side? Whenever I hear someone say I do this on the side, I cringe.
I only do it when I'm sarcastic. I only do it sarcastically when I'm asked to write a bio.
Yeah, when people, I do.
You asked me to write a bio, I do photography on the side.
Yeah. Man, I heard this dude on TV once on the news. It had nothing to even do with graphic design. He was talking about how some stuff was stolen from him. And he was like, yeah, I'm a teacher, but I'm a graphic designer on the side. What does that have to do with your stuff being stolen? And why would you have to let the world know that you do this on the side?
Because it's my sarcasm on the side.
Well, no, I mean, but yeah, if it's your sarcasm on the side.
I'll say.
I also let people know I'm a dentist on the side.
On the side.
On the side.
We're
As
straight
a consumer, I'm very picky. I'm very picky. And I think that people need to understand that when you are an entrepreneur or when you're going into business, have an established business, and we kind of started a conversation in part one like this about knowing your rates and things like that and not being afraid to charge your worth. One of the things that I'm the type of consumer that I'm very picky in general, and especially picky on what I spend my money on. And I have expectations, and so you have to think about going back to thinking about your clientele, think about your target demographic. When you just throw stuff together, or work with people who throw stuff together because they do it on the side, it's going to show that way, and you're not going to attract the ideal customer that you're looking for. I'm the type of person, and I'll be real about it. If, let's say, I move to a new city and I'm looking for a church, if that church doesn't have a website, you're not going to have me as a parishioner. In 2021, I'm going to need you to have a website. And your website needs to look a certain way.
Oh.
Because it speaks to the level that you operate at. It speaks to your type of resources, the tools you have, you know.
Well, you need to bring your ties and offering to the storehouse so they can get.
I bring, well, if you already had folk who were bringing ties and offers to the storehouse, and that was just, you know what, we going off on a tangent. I'm just saying. But think about it. I'm speaking to you now as a consumer, that there are certain things that I look for. So if I'm the type of consumer, for example, I go to 4 and 5 star establishments, I'm used to a certain thing.
Yes.
That means when I'm looking for other services and products, you as a business need to speak to me in the language that I'm used to, whether it's the things that attract my eye, the way you provide your service, even the way you communicate, and the systems you have in place to communicate. You've got to be at a certain level. And so I think that's important that people need to understand. Like, we're talking about some of these pet peeves. These are different things that, you know, we've seen businesses where you're trying to reach here, but you are operating here, and you think it's okay. It's one thing if you're doing the best you can and you know that you can operate a little bit better, but when you're just like, nah, this is, why do I need to do all that?
Right.
You know, I remember being in a meeting with other entrepreneurs several years ago. We were talking about business taxes. And not everybody in that room pays business taxes. I pay my business taxes. Okay? And one guy, I'll never forget it, the way he said it. He was like, all I need is this phone and my earpiece. That's all I need. I don't need to pay no. And
Okay.
you still need to claim that as your business equipment. And so again, that was already clear that the level, basically, I'm not at the table with the right folk.
That's a good observation.
I'm not at the table with the right folk. You know, I need to hang with winners.
That's a great observation.
And people who are about operating at a certain level. I'm not just trying to do this thing on the side.
Exactly.
I'm building something here. And so as part of building, you need to think about those things. Systems in place, who you work with, who you network with. You gotta, you're gonna have to make some investments.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that. You can take investments to be whatever it is, whether it's an investment in a photographer, a professional one, a professional designer, a professional business coach, whatever it may be. You need to make some investments somewhere. So with that, let's go ahead to our last question.
Okay, good, because I had another pet peeve that was sitting on deck.
Lord, no.
He's not preach. Let's not preach.
Let's not go there with you.
Okay.
Woosah, because all we got is water. I don't have anything to bring you down a bit. So, I don't have the sit still moon or anything for you.
Yeah,
So.
that last pet peeve.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
We need to mellow out. So last question. Let's talk about brands that get it right. You all have mentioned a few minutes ago, we were talking about, photography, for example, and where I said I've noticed people, gotten very casual in their photography. And, and you mentioned, some of that is influencers and things like that. And I thought about one particular influencer who gets it right. I'm not going to say the name of the person, but what I noticed is they use, because you mentioned it, they use a professional photographer. They are one of the ones that use a professional photographer every single thing that's posted. And this particular influencer is, because we talk about brands that go to influencers, there's a brand, one of the brands that this influencer works with puts emails in my inbox every day. And I noticed in those emails that this influencer's pictures are there in the emails. Because I said, oh, ain't that so-and-so? I follow so-and-so.
Yeah.
The same picture that influencer posted on IG, that same picture was in my inbox as part of that brand. And I'm talking about a brand that I shop with. They use that influencer's pictures as part of their email marketing. That's the difference between, a lot of people are making it look easy, but do you realize the team that they have in place, the resources, the tools. And so, you know, I get it. There's some that's still on their grind, and ain't nobody trying to, you know, knock your hustle, your grind, or what have you. But there are some times where you have to actually make investments to go to the next level.
I agree.
So, what are some brands or some things you've seen where people get it right?
This photographer, I will not name that photographer's name, but the photographer has it right in that the photographer does branding for clients, and that photographer's work is consistent. There's a look and feel. It's different people, different. The look and feel of that photographer's work is consistent. So when you approach this person, you know exactly what you're getting for branding. And there's two photographers actually that I'm really standing on right now to do that. As far as a commercial brand itself that I think has it right, it's going to sound weird. There's two brands. I'm a big Adidas fan. I like the images that Adidas sends on their email marketing. I think their social media is kind of too vast for me in terms of follow, but I like how they market email to me. The other brand is Coach, believe it or not. Why do I say Coach? They have this guy. I saw this guy that now does ad campaigns for Coach. I saw this guy doing parody videos on Twitter. I can't call his name. Pretty chocolate skin, has braids or something, and wears his hair in a ponytail, and he does these videos on Twitter. He's now in ad campaigns for Coach. Why do I think they got it right? Because he's consistent in the print marketing that they have. He's consistent in the social media marketing that they have. So like I don't want to go in the store and you have different people in the store or different people on the printed material or different people on your website than you have on your social media marketing. When I look at the magazine, I want to see those same people that I saw on social media that I go in the store and see. And I want to see the continuity of it. I want to see that it clearly belongs to this brand. And I want to see, when I see it, I'm like, oh, this is great. I want to see more. So now that I've seen this guy and how they've consistently used him to showcase their brand in magazines that I've read on their website and on their IG, I want to see more. I want to see what you can do with this guy. Because I really only thought he made videos on Twitter that were hilarious and funny as hell that Janet Jackson noticed. Like, he's just that type of dude. But they've used him for print marketing, and I'm like, that's nice. And I've seen you consistent with using this guy in 3 different mediums. What more can you give me? And your brand has been around for how long?
Yeah, long time.
Right. So.
Wow, who gets it right? See, that's more a matter of taste, right? And the reason why I say that is because, you know, we have different tastes, and there's certain things we may agree on that, you know, they get right, and certain things that we may differ on that, right?
Okay, I can see that.
But there's still certain standards that needs to be followed. And Cara-Lynn kind of pointed out a couple of those things in terms of consistency. And it's a consistency within whatever, I guess, your budget is, right? And is your message being consistently relayed to your base? And if that's working, you're getting it right. You're getting it right, regardless of whether or not I like the aesthetic or not. Is it working for you?
Right.
And are you consistent? That's all that matters to me from that perspective. But if you're asking me, what do I like visually when I see it? You know, I like different things for different reasons.
From your trained eye as an experienced, you know, graphic designer, professional, that's what I'm looking for. Okay,
well, I'll take you to thing that instantaneously pops in my mind. We kind of touched on it earlier. You guys already know. Of course, I do design work for our alma mater, North Carolina A&T's athletic department, right? Thank you, pride. Yes, they do, right? the thing is, being that I've immersed myself within what's called, well, immersed myself into sports marketing, I study what a lot of different schools do, right? And try to figure out a way that I can implement that for what I do with A&T. And when I say everybody, I mean everybody from the Power 5 conferences, from the SEC, the ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac 12, even the Group of 5 schools, the MAC, the AAC, on to the FCS level, like North Carolina A&T with the Big South, the MEAC, the SWAC, the OBC, even Division II with the CIAA and the SEAC and the MIAA, just studying what the various schools do as it pertains to their advertising. And I understand that everyone has different budget, right? And a lot of times, people try to replicate what a lot of the bigger schools do, but of course they don't either have the finances or the talent to do that. And that's why I pointed out it's whatever you're capable of doing within your budget and within the talent frame that you currently have. With that said, the things, of course, that sticks out to me most, because that's what I care about most, is HBCU athletics and how that message is being relayed to their audiences. Especially if your program starts to become popular. That was one of the things that we actually had a conversation about at North Carolina A&T, seeing that the football program is getting more popular, the track program was becoming more popular.
Essentially golf now.
And now golf, right? And how that, and also along with the transition moving from the MEAC to the Big South, they knew that there was going to be more eyes on the program. And we want to make sure that the message is going to be attractive to that new audience. Not to say that we didn't care about the old audience, because we cared about them too, but just making sure that there's consistency within, that word consistency comes back, making sure that there's consistency within the message as much as possible. So when looking at the landscape as it pertains to HBCU athletics and their marketing, a lot of schools that get it right, Bethune-Cookman.
Yes.
They actually
have it was a woman, right? Originally.
Yes.
And
yes.
I think she the one that kind of like really steered them where they did that pivot of you getting it right.
Yes.
It right.
I have to go check them out.
Yeah, so she's no longer there.
Right. Yeah.
I forget what her name is, but she's a phenomenal designer. Yeah.
Okay, I have to check them out.
Yeah, because
that's when, like, oh, okay, I see you.
Yeah, because there was a little conversation had a few years ago about who had the better branding going on at the time between Bethune and A&T. And even I had
like,
brand, right? But them, Alabama State was doing a great job, and oddly enough, what makes it so interesting is that, well, the former athletic director at Alabama State, Jennifer Williams, used to be the former assistant athletic director at North Carolina A&T, and she was the one that brought me in because she understood the importance of marketing and the role that it plays within the athletic department.
Yes.
She saw my work and was like, we need you to come in and do work with us. So, and she also was familiar with what was going on with Bethune-Cookman. When she moved over to not Jackson, but Alabama State, she also knew that we need to improve our marketing here as well. And that improved as soon as she got there too. And I was like, yeah, that's because of her. Jackson State is another place that has improved their game. And it was done long before Dion got there, when they started to improve what their look was. And now that they know that they have more eyes on them, their look has been extremely consistent. Their branding in terms of their social media and everything is consistent. That's another pet peeve of mine. Ooh.
It's consistency, but that's the thing.
Exactly, right?
Consistency and knowing your target audience.
Yes.
Because you've brought that up a few times where when you talk about the transition of A&T going from the MEAC to the Big South and being, mindful of this new audience without, overlooking your current audience.
Yes.
And also, we need to come at it from a perspective of what can I solve for you?
Yes.
Exactly.
Providing my service.
Mm-hmm.
What do I solve? What issue or what problem or what do I solve for you that will make you better?
Yes.
We're providing our services.
Exactly. Exactly. And that was one of the things I noticed now with the CIAA is that they actually have a firm that deals with their entire marketing now.
There's consistency.
With consistency throughout the entire conference now.
Yeah.
Again, may not be the biggest fan of it, but it's consistency.
It's consistent.
It's clean, and it's working with them.
Yeah.
And that's the aspect of it that I like.
Right.
And that's one of the things that, because I see these schools and their stuff isn't necessarily consistent or it's not the best design. And that's what I long for, is to see where all of our programs can get to that point.
And I'll take that a step further. That's what I long for when I see a lot of businesses in our community, where and that's part of kind of why I went into business, was to serve our community. And there's so much of when I'm trying to be of service that I just want to relay. I want to give you all this knowledge. I want to give you all these resources and things like that. But it starts with just wanting to be of service.
Yeah.
What can I do for you? And I think, a lot of times we kind of talk about our personal journeys and stories about how we started out or lessons learned. There's a lot that you probably don't know. There's a lot that you probably do know, but you don't think of during the time. And that's why the thing that we have been trying to sort of impress upon you in all of these sweet chats of just seeking out a professional, whether it's a professional photographer, designer, coach, or other professionals that may be out there that can help you with your business. Sometimes you even, let me put it this way, even in the C-suite, those executives, they have coaches themselves.
Yeah.
They have executive training, they have sponsors, they have mentors. You can never get to a point where you don't need some assistance. And so that's what if you take nothing else away from all of these speech chats, what I would love for you to take away is think about investing in yourself, because it will do wonders for your business. And even when we talk about investing in yourself, not just whether it's a coach, but investing in those people who are with you, you'll be amazed at the next level you can go personally as well as professionally, and it'll do so much for your business. So with that, I don't know if you all have any last minute thoughts you want to. We can go on forever on these conversations. I'm thinking, so we've had a conversation on photography, we've had a conversation on design, and now we've had a 2-part conversation on building your business brand, particularly as it relates to photography and design, and having someone coach you and really think about those things you need to grow. We might just do, I don't know, maybe go live. If I don't know, maybe it's something to put out there that if you've enjoyed these conversations that you've been tuning into, and if you say, I've got some questions, or I noticed you all mentioned something, but I kind of want to, go deeper on that, we might be willing to entertain kind of going live together.
Okay.
We might do that.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. We might do this again in a live fashion.
We will do this again. So let's just go ahead and
Yes.
say we will do it.
I was going to say we might do some additional conversation, not just the live part, but keep the conversation going.
Give me some cocktails and some snacks.
It'll be Polish and Poise after dark. But with that, I want to thank you all tuning in. I want to thank again our great hostess, Ms. Cara-Lynn Birts, Cara-Lynn Birts Photography, for allowing us to use the studio as our Polish and Poise suite for the conversation. I want to also thank you for joining in the conversation, as well as Mr. Duane Nash of Nash Media. Again, I wanted to bring the people from my personal circle that I look at as the best at what they do to have this conversation with you. I work with them because I look at them as the best at what they do. And I thought this conversation was particularly important because it's things that I've gone through, that we all go through, that we talk about when we shared our personal stories and our journey. And we know a lot of other people are going through. And so I thought it was a necessary conversation to be had. And I'm ecstatic at kind of what we've been able to talk about and do together. And I look forward to, since we already put it out there, we're going to have more conversations like this. Tune in. So thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your day, and be sure to tune into all of us. I'm at the Pope Institute.
Cara-Lynn Birts Photography.
Well, you don't want to go there. What you want to do is you want to go to the Yard HBCU and watch my coverage of HBCU athletics. Because designing Duane Nash, that has nothing to do with design whatsoever. So yeah, if you want to follow me in my sports coverage, you can follow me there at the Yard HBCU, and that's on all platforms of social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
But I think it speaks to the larger point of Nash Media. Nash Media is more than just, okay, I can do a logo and take out some wrinkles for you. Nash Media is a powerhouse. So again, bringing the best to you. Make sure you check us out on all of our platforms. Follow us for additional updates, whether it's respect to our businesses individually or the projects that we may have coming out together. So take care, everyone. Thanks.